This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
It was shortly before noon on Sunday, April 16th, 1989, outside Tyler, Texas. Stacy Henderson and her 6-year-old friend Joshua Oliver had walked down the road to return a video game to a neighbor. They were just a few hundred yards from Stacy's house when the unthinkable happened.
I'm scared it might happen to me, so I just started running back, because if I didn't start walking, he might have got out of the car and grabbed me too. I ran to Dee's house.
He was out of breath, and we weren't really understanding what he was saying. And then for some reason, it just hit me that Stacy had been kidnapped.
Mama! How do you know? Where?
After he got his breath back, he was able to tell us it was a white man with brown bushy hair, and it was a big brown car. It was bigger than his mother's.
Immediately, Dee Mullins went to look for her 7-year-old sister, Stacy, while their adoptive mother, Velma Henderson, went to call for help.
911, what is your emergency, please?
Dispatcher Tammy Macklin took the call.
Okay, what is your name?
The first call I got was from Mrs. Henderson. She couldn't give me very many details because there was a 5-year-old with her daughter when she was kidnapped, and he was the one they were getting their information from. It was real sketchy.
A white male?
I was scared to death if they waited, he would be so gone we couldn't get him.
Time makes all the difference in the world on a call like this.
Miss Henderson, I'll have a deputy out.
642. Well, I was working a section of that county on that Sunday morning, 15 to 20 miles away from the location where Stacy was kidnapped at.
Deputy Stephen Dunklin headed to the scene.
Several years back, we had a girl get kidnapped out of a church, and they found her dead later on. It's not very often that you find a kidnapped victim still alive.
Dee went to the Alsh's house, where Stacy had been headed, to see if she was there.
I was hoping that it was just all a bad joke and, she was down there.
Lois! Lois!
And I asked her, I said, is Stacy here? And she said no. And I said, oh my God, somebody's grabbed her. I think that's whenever I panicked. Oh God, this is real, this isn't a joke. Some nutcase has got her, it's my baby sister.
Jack and Lois Alsh immediately went to see if they could help.
The entire family jumped into our car, and we went roaring out of the driveway back towards the Hendersons' house, knowing that someone had Stacy, but not knowing who it was.
We don't know any direction of travel that the suspect may have taken Stacy in. There's nothing but back roads in that part of the county. Nothing but back roads, dirt roads, blacktop roads. He could have turned left instead of right.
It's a big county.
Smith County, all units, 1063, reference possible kidnapping.
That's why when something like this happens, we pick up the phone and we notify all the agencies we can.
Deputy Bobby McGee responded.
Myself and Deputy Brewer were assisting another officer serving a civil paper when the call came in to Deputy Dunklin to proceed on a kidnapping charge. So myself and Alvina Brewer went ahead and proceeded out.
Okay, Josh, I know you're real scared.
While Jack carefully questioned Joshua, Lois relayed the information they were gathering to Dispatcher Macklin. Jack then went to gather neighbors for a search party.
I knew that if they didn't get her quickly, that they wouldn't get her, that they wouldn't find her, not alive. So I started calling neighbors. I just got the phone book. I called one by one every neighbor I could think of and told them briefly what happened and asked them to please get in their vehicles and just hit the roads because we didn't know which way they went.
Stacy's been kidnapped.
As I went house to house and as my wife called other people in the area and alerted them, there were probably as many as 40 or 50 people out on the road.
And all of a sudden there was a lot of traffic around the Hendersons. Some would drive around for a while and then they would come back to see if anything had happened.
They just seemed like they materialized out of the trees. We couldn't imagine how they had all learned about it so quickly. We were certainly glad they were there and willing to help.
Josh's mother, Lisa Oliver, comforted her friend Dee.
We talked a lot. You know, we was walking down the road and everything, we were talking, and we were trying to convince each other that, you know, she was going to be okay.
There's just so many things running through my mind. Where is she? Is she okay? Has he killed her? You know, has he molested her in some way? And everybody always thinks, well, something like this doesn't happen to your family. I got news for them. It does. It happens. And it can happen to anybody, no matter where they live, whether it's in the middle of the city or the sticks. It can happen.
When we continue,
It's like somebody reaches in, you know, pops your chest open and grabs your heart and just yanks it out.
It took us about 15 minutes to get to the location where she was kidnapped at. First thing I asked was who saw the incident. Josh, you said your name is Josh? Josh, come on back to the back of my car. I need to talk to you just a second. Joshua said that he had never seen the man before. He had never seen the car before. It was a brown four-door. Okay, what was he wearing, Josh?
A blue shirt.
Okay. He said the man had black hair, blue shirt, blue pants. While I talked to him, he never cried. His voice never wavered or quivered. Smart little man. Okay, do you have a beard, mustache, anything? Brown hair? With a mustache? Okay.
He had hair on his face like he hadn't shaved for a few days.
Okay.
His hands and fingernails were dirty.
Real dirty, like dirt and grease? Okay. Okay. I'm going to put that on the radio. Josh, you did real good, okay? Josh was very clear in what he had told us about what the suspect was wearing, which enabled us to intensify our search more. 642.
It's like somebody reaches in, you know, pops your chest open and grabs your heart and just yanks it out.
Smith County, all units 1063 reference additional information. Suspect is a white male, approximately 6 foot, dark brown hair. Will have a mustache and some facial hair. Suspect will have dirty hands. Should be wearing a blue shirt and blue jeans. Driving a large brown car.
following proper police procedure, deputies Brewer and McGee set up a stakeout at a key intersection.
We had decided to stop every car that came through.
Okay, we got a brown vehicle coming. I guess we'll stop. Yeah, we'll stop it tonight.
As soon as we pulled in behind him, we noticed him accelerate. He was coming up on a stop sign. We turned on red lights and sirens in an attempt to stop him. He accelerated more.
It's going to be in pursuit of a brown sedan headed 31 east.
He went about 2/10 of a mile and he turned again at a very high rate of speed, and so he was making a triangle.
641 Smith County will be headed south on 211. We got it. Stay on about.
He missed the turn, and we could see him headed toward the ditch, and he couldn't go anywhere else. He was stuck there.
Get out of the car! Hey, get out of the car now!
Miss Anderson, they've located the car.
Dee and her friend followed the deputy sheriffs to the scene.
Me and Dee, we kept telling each other, you know, she's all right, you know, they got her, but we were real scared to death.
I did not see Stacy anywhere near the car. The first thing crossed my mind was that Stacy was dead or hurt. I walked up and asked Deputy McGee, where was Stacy? Deputy McGee told me she was in the patrol car, in Deputy McGee's patrol car. And I went over there and asked Stacy if she was all right. I had picked up my arms and held her. We're not supposed to let our emotions come in contact with our work, but in a situation like that, it's hard to do, especially with young kids. You just can't do it. I recognized the suspect. He had lived in our neighborhood for several years. I have a girl that's back then was 6 years old, and knowing that this suspect lived in the same neighborhood as my family, it really got to me, because it could have been my girl that was kidnapped. It was hard. It was really hard.
I was so happy just to see her, and I was wanting to hold her and know she was okay and know that I would have her, you know, for hopefully many more years.
Deputies found a knife on the suspect and duct tape in a club in the brown sedan. The driver was convicted of aggravated kidnapping and sentenced to life in prison. Stacy returned home to her family.
Everybody's running up to me like, Stacy, are you okay? And what did that man do to you and all that? I felt real glad because she was my friend.
Nearly a year later, Stacy's life is slowly returning to normal.
Well, she's a bit nervous. She doesn't sleep as well. She still wants to sleep with me all the time. She doesn't like to go to play with anybody. She wants them to come to the house. Doesn't like to talk about the kidnapping. Still upsets her, but she's loosening up a whole lot.
Josh is a hero to me because he ran back to my parents and told my parents so the police could arrest this man.
Josh had enough presence of mind to get the description of the suspect and get it down to almost perfect. He's what saved Stacy.
It wasn't even a quarter mile from our house, you know, she was just barely out of sight from us. The one thing that my family learned, you have to watch them because you never know what's going to happen. And you're the one that's put on this earth to protect them. You know, if you're not there, who's going to be?
Next.
She turns into a rag doll on her back, starting to spin and starts accelerating away from me.
When you're falling through the air at 100 miles an hour, a life or death emergency can arise in an instant, and there may not be enough time to solve it. A team of stunt divers helped us reconstruct the daring decision of a moment that changed the course of a life on Good Friday of 1987.
A 2 to 3 mile jump to Earth is a soaring pleasure for a skydiver until the horizon line or an insistent altimeter beep warns it's time to pull the chute. On April 18th, in the crystal clear desert air of Coolidge, Arizona, hundreds of skydivers from all over the country had gathered for what they call an Easter boogie. Instructor Greg Robertson was one of the loadmasters that day.
I was on the hangar floor, and I watched this lady having trouble packing her rig. And at a boogie, everyone's supposed to know what they're doing. You're not supposed to have untrained students there. So I went up and talked to her and figured out that she was relatively inexperienced, about 50 jumps, and decided, well, I better keep my eye on this one. A little inexperienced, make sure she at least knows what she's doing in the air, isn't going to kill herself or kill somebody else.
31-year-old Debbie Williams was preparing to jump as part of the last group, a 6-way round formation.
One of the groups that was together was the 6-way of relatively inexperienced people. I was acting as the loadmaster and spotter for the aircraft. The formation that they had planned was well within the experience level of that group. They were all going to join hands, forming a circle, break apart, each do a 360-degree flat turn, and rejoin their hands.
Until their parachutes open, skydivers fall at speeds of over 100 miles an hour. Even when jumping from as high as 13,500 feet, like Debbie's group, a diver has less than a minute and a half to safely maneuver into formation before the chute must be opened.
Come on. Tighten up.
Tighten up.
I give him about a second. I hop out after him. I start diving down, and I check her out in the air. She's in a good track position, real good body position. And I set up about 70 feet out from this three-way that's already built. I'm watching these people go in. I'm watching Debbie. She starts orbiting. She's not making it in. She's gotten down there, but she's not making it in. She's just orbiting around. All of a sudden, this other dude runs into the formation, hits it, funnels it out, and they drop down a couple of 100 feet below us. The other two jumpers, Debbie and Guy Fitzwater, started diving towards this formation below us now. And I guess she's not watching really where she's going.
The impact was as great as a 50-mile-an-hour car crash. Debbie was knocked unconscious.
She turns into a rag doll on her back, starting to spin, and starts accelerating away from me. Where we've been doing probably 110 miles an hour, she's probably accelerated up to 130. Guy got initially knocked over and then righted himself. So I decide, well, she needs help. And I go into a no-lift dive, trying to get up to about 200 miles an hour.
Greg caught up with Debbie less than 30 seconds from impact.
I lift my head out of this dive and take a look, and I notice there's blood all over her face. And I'm thinking, I'll just let her body swing around and bring the ripcord to me. And all of a sudden I realize I got absolutely no idea how high above the ground I am. Look out of the side of my eyes real quick, and I decide I've got enough time to do this, but I got to do it now. I drive on in as the legs swing around, grab her with my left hand, sit her up so the rig will deploy cleanly, pull the ripcord and say, that's your shot.
Greg finally managed to open Debbie's chute less than 10 seconds before they hit the ground.
Over there. Hey, got a nice one over there.
Emergency medical technician and avid parachutist Dean Baker had come to watch the boogie that day.
Hey, he's in trouble. Where?
And there I saw a woman at about 100 feet gliding down, and her arms were at her side limp, which is a clear indication that she wasn't in control and wasn't prepared to land safely.
What? Hey, somebody call man.
Already unconscious and heading for an uncontrolled landing, Debbie was going to hit very hard.
When I got to her on the ground, I noticed that her face was totally covered in blood, and I noticed a gurgling sound out of her mouth.
You okay? She had a free fall collision. I had to pull her reserve on her.
Dean immediately took charge of Debbie's treatment. Her swelling stomach indicated severe internal bleeding.
I also noticed that her blood pressure was dropping, so I elevated her feet to treat for shock and asked for some mask trousers or something to stabilize the blood pressure.
Dean then came up with an idea that helped save Debbie's life for the second time that day.
There was nothing there at all except a thought of inflatable leg splints.
He improvised and used the inflatable leg splints to stabilize her blood pressure.
You're gonna be okay. Here comes the ambulance, guys. Come on, guys. Okay, tell them where to get it. Get some of this equipment out here.
The paramedics arrived and took over prepping Debbie for the helicopter ride to the hospital. Debbie was rushed to the hospital semi-conscious, where it was discovered she had sustained broken ribs, a lacerated liver, and a punctured lung, and was in shock from the loss of blood. Without the quick thinking of both Greg and Dean, Debbie would not have survived.
Everybody tells me I'm a hero. By the definition that I heard, I saved somebody's life, I'm a hero. I'm a hero. I simply do what I feel is necessary.
As far as I'm concerned, he did put himself in danger because he was thinking about saving my life rather than pulling his own parachute. If Gregory hadn't been there that day, I would be dead now. I would have bounced.
2 years later, Debbie is married. She and her husband, Bill, live together in Hawaii, where she's a teacher.
I'd like to make another jump this weekend, and I don't believe that if I skydive, I'll have another accident. What are the chances of it happening, 2 times to the same person?
Step out of the car, please.